Welcome to another episode of People Pod.
Hey there.
So I want you to imagine for a second that you are stepping into one of the most highly manufactured, like precision engineered industries on the planet.
Right.
An industry that is just globally famous for its strict conformity, like nearly impossible beauty standards.
Oh, absolutely.
And public images that are so heavily controlled, they might as well be scripted by a team of lawyers.
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration at all.
Right. And then right in the middle of that intense pressure cooker, you decide to just completely unapologetically be yourself.
I mean, that sounds like absolute career suicide, frankly.
It really does.
Because in a machine that is entirely built on, like, precision and predictability, being raw and unpredictable isn't just a risk. It's usually a fast track to complete obscurity.
Exactly. But today's deep dive into the source material is about a group that took that exact risk and somehow won.
Yeah, big time.
We are talking about Mamamoo, a 4-member South Korean girl group made up of Solar, Moonbyul, Wheein, and Hwasa. And these 4 women didn't just break the K-pop mold.
No, they basically took the mold, threw it out the window, and essentially forced an entire multi-billion-dollar industry to adapt to them instead.
Which is wild. So our mission today is to figure out exactly how they pulled that off. We are going to look at how Mamamoo survived and ended up dominating the global charts.
Right.
We'll explore their raw vocal talent, how they consistently challenge those rigid gender stereotypes, and how they managed to, seize creative control of their own destiny in a system that's literally designed to strip that control away.
Yeah, and to really understand the stakes here, you have to understand the baseline of the K-pop landscape.
Right, because it's so different from the West.
Totally. Traditionally, the idol industry is built on a very specific, very rigid formula. So agencies scout teenagers, and then they spend like years in a trainee system.
Just grinding away.
Yeah. We're talking vocal lessons, dance training, strict diets, and often living in dorms away from their families.
Wow.
And when a group finally debuts, everything, and I mean everything, is meticulously planned by the label.
So like their concepts, their outfits, their public personas.
Exactly. Typically, rookie groups do not write their own music, and they certainly don't deviate from the concept they've been assigned. Conformity is the feature, not a bug. The system works because the pieces fit the puzzle.
You're supposed to be this flawless, shiny product right out of the box.
Exactly. And then you have this group. I mean, even their name signals a completely different approach.
Right, the name Mamamoo.
Yeah. It's actually intended to symbolize a baby babbling for the very first time. Like, the word mama is something babies all over the world learn to speak instinctively.
Oh, regardless of their native language.
Right. So the group's goal from the start was to approach listeners instinctively, creating music that feels familiar, organic, and deeply human to anyone, anywhere in the world.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the way they launched their career back in 2014 was completely different from anyone else.
It really was.
Like, how do you get people to take you seriously in a market saturated with perfectly polished rookies? Well, you don't act like a beginner.
Nope.
Before they even officially debuted, their agency, RBW, had them collaborating with major heavy hitters.
Yeah, established artists.
Right. We're talking established artists like Bumkey, K-Will, and the rap duo Geeks.
It was a fascinating, highly unconventional strategy. It bypassed the usual mysterious rookie phase entirely.
Yeah, explain that timeline, because it's crazy.
Well, by January 2014, they released a track with Bumkey. By February, they dropped Peppermint Chocolate with K-Will featuring Wheein.
And that charted, right?
Yeah. It debuted at number 10 on the Gaon Digital Chart.
Which is basically South Korea's equivalent of the Billboard Hot 100.
Exactly. For a group that technically hadn't even debuted yet, hitting the top 10 is staggering.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me an unknown group from a relatively small agency got massive established artists to just casually feature on their pre-debut tracks?
Yeah.
Like, how did they convince them? How does that even work mechanically?
So to understand how crazy this is, you have to look at the typical playbook. Agencies usually hide rookies to build mystery and hype.
Right. They release those cryptic teasers on YouTube.
Exactly. But RBW realized Mamamoo's ultimate weapon was their vocal tone and harmony. So they essentially leaped their voices.
Oh, that's smart.
Right. They put them on tracks with veterans to prove they could hold their own. And the veterans agreed because the girls' vocals were genuinely good enough to carry the tracks on their own merit.
They weren't just riding coattails.
No, they were elevating the songs.
That makes so much sense. You don't tell people you're good, you just stand next to the best and show you belong there.
Exactly.
And that brings us to their actual debut in June 2014. They dropped the EP, or extended play, called Hello, featuring the lead single Mr. Ambiguous. And the music video for the song is just wild.
It really is.
It features cameo appearances from massive industry giants. You have CMBLE's John Yoon, Baek Ji-young, Wheein, Young Jun-young, and Reimer all just casually hanging out in their debut video.
Right, essentially acting as the girls' directors and staff.
Yeah. Critics instantly hailed it as one of the best K-pop debuts of 2014, but I have to ask.
Yeah.
Did bringing in all these established stars for their debut video risk overshadowing them, or was it the ultimate power move to say, we already belong at this table?
I mean, it was undeniably a massive risk, but it was the ultimate power move.
Yeah.
And it only worked because they had the talent to back it up.
Right, like if they were bad, it would just be embarrassing.
Exactly. If Mamamoo were just average performers, they would have absolutely been overshadowed by those cameos. The audience would have watched for Baek Ji-young and completely forgotten who was actually singing.
Totally.
But Mamamoo had undeniable powerhouse live vocal harmonies. You have to remember, in 2014, the K-pop trend was heavy EDM and intense synchronized choreography.
Right, which often meant live singing took a backseat.
Right, but Mamamoo walked in, prioritizing raw vocal power, R&B, and retro jazz. This strategy forced the industry to view them as serious musicians from day one.
And they doubled down on proving that vocal prowess on a show called Immortal Songs.
Oh, that was huge for them.
Right, and for those who don't know, this is a fierce South Korean singing competition where artists perform new renditions of classic hits in front of a live audience.
Right, and crucially, it's usually a playground for veteran singers and established vocalists.
Definitely.
It is emphatically not a show for rookies.
Exactly. So a rookie group going on a show meant for industry legends is presumptuous enough.
Yeah.
But then Mamamoo goes on and performs a rendition of Korean trot singer Bae Ho's classic song Backwoods Mountain, and they actually win.
Yeah. Winning on Immortal Songs with a score of 404 points was a massive turning point for them.
Why trot specifically, though?
Well, trot is a very traditional, highly respected genre in Korea. It demands a lot of emotional depth. So for 4 young women to handle that complex emotional material and seamlessly blend it with retro jazz and R&B elements, it proved they weren't just a flash in the pan.
And that critical credibility translated directly into massive commercial momentum.
It really did.
Like in 2015, they had this sleeper hit called
Oh, yeah.
that shot them into mainstream recognition.
Yeah, that song was everywhere.
And then in 2016, they dropped You're the Best from their first full studio album, Melting, and it became their first #1 single.
Right, they dominated at least 8 major music sites simultaneously.
And that demand translated to live audiences incredibly fast. When they announced their first solo concert in 2016, which was titled Musical, they sold out all 7,000 tickets in exactly 1 minute.
I mean, selling out a stadium in 60 seconds is insane.
It's unheard of for a group that young. At that point, they must have felt invincible.
Oh, for sure.
But there's a dangerous side to scaling that fast globally, isn't there? Like you suddenly have audiences with entirely different cultural expectations and your blind spots get magnified.
Exactly. Growth on a global scale almost always comes with intense friction. By 2017, they were reaching unprecedented heights.
Yeah.
Their 2017 EP Purple, which featured the single Yes I Am, was a colossal hit. It earned them their first #1 on the Billboard World Albums chart.
Wow.
And domestically, Yes I Am broke records on Melon, which for context is basically the Spotify of South Korea. They hit the highest number of unique listeners in a 24-hour period for any girl group at the time.
But right as they are peaking, their rising international fame crashes into a major cultural blind spot.
Yes, it did. During their 2017 musical Curtain Call concert, a video interlude played of the members impersonating Bruno Mars's Uptown Funk.
Right.
And in the video, the members were wearing darker makeup. They were essentially performing a blackface.
Yeah, it was a massive shock to their international fans.
Yeah. This raises an important question about how public figures, especially in highly managed industries, handled catastrophic missteps.
Because usually they just ignore it, right?
Exactly. To understand how radical Mamamoo's response was, you have to look at the underlying mechanics of K-pop PR. Historically, agencies are terrified of losing their domestic market.
Right.
So acknowledging an international controversy usually draws domestic backlash or unwanted scrutiny.
So the standard protocol was to just ignore international outrage.
Ignore it, deflect, or simply have the corporate entity issue a vague legalistic statement while the artist stayed completely silent and hidden.
But they completely threw out the PR playbook.
They really did. They immediately cut the clip from all future concert dates. But more importantly, they stepped out from behind the corporate shield.
What did they say?
They issued direct, accountable apologies, including statements straight from the members themselves. They explicitly stated that they were extremely ignorant of blackface and did not understand the painful implications of their action. Yeah, they didn't make excuses or blame their stylists. They promised to take the time to educate themselves and understand their international fans.
You know, think about how rare that is today.
Yeah, extremely rare.
Like, when was the last time you saw a celebrity, let alone a group operating in an industry notorious for silencing its artists, issue an apology that didn't sound like it was written by a panic-stricken legal team?
Almost never.
To step forward and say, we were ignorant, we messed up, and we need to learn that vulnerability actually deepened the trust between the group and their global fan base.
It did.
They risked their domestic standing to save their global integrity. They faced the music.
It showed a genuine willingness to evolve.
Yeah.
And that need for evolution brings us to their next major structural pivot.
Right.
Because having secured their place at the top of the industry and having learned some hard lessons about a global audience, Mamamoo needed a way to grow musically without losing their core group identity or, just burning out.
And this leads to arguably their most ambitious era, the Four Seasons, Four Colors project, which ran over 2018 and 2019.
Yeah, this was huge.
They released 4 distinct mini-albums, right? Yellow Flower, Red Moon, Blue S, and White Win. And each album focused heavily on one specific member, matching their unique characteristic to a season and a specific color.
Yeah, the goal here was to showcase their immense depth as individual artists while presenting a much more mature, cohesive group style.
You know what this reminds me of? I'm just putting this together now.
Yeah.
This sounds exactly like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, giving each hero their own solo movie to build their backstory, which only makes the Avengers team up that much stronger.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right, Mamamoo is doing that, but with K-pop albums, you get to see exactly what makes Solar, Moonbyul, Wheein, and Hwasa tick individually.
And when we connect this to the bigger picture, this structural move is what prevented them from going stale.
Because it's an industry that burns through concepts so fast.
Exactly. They burn through concepts and artists at an alarming rate. But the Four Seasons, Four Colors project allowed them to reinvent themselves organically. We got massive musical shifts during this time.
Like what?
For example, Yellow Flower gave us the Latin-inspired acoustic track Starry Night, which was certified platinum for 100 million streams.
Wow, 100 million.
Yeah. And they were exploring reggaeton with Egotistic and upbeat pop with Gogo Bebe.
But it wasn't just the music that was evolving, it was the visuals and the cultural statements they were making.
Absolutely. Because each member had a designated era. It created space for them to push cultural boundaries on their own terms.
I remember Moonbyul doing this.
Yeah. Moonbyul, the group's rapper, began radically redefining gender roles with her fashion and performance style. In an industry where girl groups are often pressured into very specific feminine ideals, Moonbyul was performing in traditional men's handbox.
Oh, right. Or those sharply tailored suits.
Exactly. She was subverting the gaze completely.
And then you have Hwasa.
Right. Hwasa became famous for challenging South Korea's famously strict beauty standards.
Which are intense.
Oh, very. The standard idol look often favors pale skin and a very slender, specific frame. But Hwasa embraced her tan skin, her curvy figure, and a fiercely unapologetic, dominant stage presence.
She basically just owned it.
Yeah, she essentially looked at the beauty standard and said, if I don't fit into this generation's standard of beauty, then I will become a different standard.
And she did.
She really did. They were demonstrating that you can be a cohesive group while remaining 4 highly distinct, fiercely independent women.
So they build all this individual power, but, how does that translate when they come back together as a group?
Well, it translated perfectly.
Because in late 2019, they entered a reality competition show called Queendom. And I want to clarify something for our listeners.
Yeah, it's an important distinction.
In K-pop, the word comeback doesn't mean returning from retirement. It just means releasing new music.
Right.
So Queendom was a comeback battle where 6 trending established girl groups went head-to-head to determine the real #1. And Mamamoo won the whole thing.
And that victory lap resulted in their second studio album, Reality in Black, and the lead single, HIP.
Oh, HIP was massive.
It was. HIP became their biggest international success up to that point, hitting #1 on the Billboard World Digital Song Sales chart.
Wow.
But more than just being a catchy song, HIP was a masterclass in owning their narrative. The lyrics directly addressed their haters, their fashion controversies, and their refusal to conform.
It resonated globally because it was so authentic to everything they had built.
Exactly.
But then just as they hit this incredible peak, the world completely changes. The COVID-19 pandemic shuts everything down. Live performances disappear.
Yeah, scary time for performers.
But even then, they managed to capture the cultural mood perfectly. They released the EP Travel and the disco pop track Dinga.
Just such a good track.
It is. And on the surface, it's this fun, chill dance track, but the lyrics are all about the isolation, the boredom, and the longing for human connection that the entire world was feeling at that exact moment.
They adapted beautifully. But adapting to a pandemic wasn't the only existential threat they were facing.
Oh, right.
Which brings us to the business mechanics of their longevity. In the K-pop industry, there's a very famous, very dreaded phenomenon known as the 7-year curse.
The dreaded contract renewal.
Exactly. Standard exclusive contracts in K-pop, mandated by fair trade regulations, usually last a maximum of 7 years.
And when that contract is up, the leverage shifts.
Yeah. Artists often want better cuts, more solo control, or simply want to act or rest. Because of this, many groups disband entirely or lose key members at the 7-year mark. It's a massive hurdle that destroys most groups.
And in 2021, Mamamoo hit that 7-year mark.
Yeah, and the contract negotiations were closely watched by the entire industry. Solar, Moonbyul, and Hwasa decided to renew their contracts with their agency, RBW. But Wheein chose a different path. She chose not to renew her solo contract and left the agency to sign with a different company called VCL1VE.
Here's where it gets really interesting. I need to emphasize this because the underlying business mechanics of K-pop are brutal. Usually the agency owns the intellectual property. They own the trademark to the group's name. They control the schedules.
Right.
So in typical K-pop logic, leaving the agency legally and practically means leaving the group. It's just how the corporate paperwork dictates reality. But Wheein completely defied that standard logic.
She did. What Wheein did was negotiate a highly specific split contract.
How does that even work?
Well, she signed an extension with RBW solely to remain a member of Mamamoo. Her solo identity and solo music belonged to her new company, but her group identity was essentially leased back to RBW so she could continue promoting with Mamamoo.
It's an incredible legal tightrope.
It was a groundbreaking move at the time. It proved that group's identity, their bond as sisters, and their loyalty to their fans can actually supersede corporate boundaries and IP law.
They essentially rewrote the rules of longevity in their industry, proving you don't have to disband just because corporate paperwork changes.
Yeah.
Which brings us right up to the present moment. I want to point out to you that today is July 2026.
Crazy how time flies.
Just last month, Mamamoo celebrated their 12th anniversary as a group. A 12-year run in a system that tries to age you out after 7 is legendary.
Truly legendary.
And on June 4th, 2026, they triumphantly returned with a special single called Forward.
Yeah, that was their first full group comeback in over 3 years.
And then, just weeks later, on June 19th, they kicked off a massive global world tour right in Seoul.
It is a stunning testament to the foundation they built back in 2014.
Right.
By refusing to be boxed in as typical rookies, by taking genuine accountability when they stumbled, and by structurally planning for their evolution as both individuals and as a collective, they built a sustainable career.
They outlasted the very trends that define their industry.
They really did.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this right back to where we started. Mamamoo entered a hyper-controlled, precision-engineered environment designed to make everyone look and sound the same.
Yeah.
They succeeded not by following the blueprint, but by trusting their instinctive voices.
From relying on their raw vocal talent over heavy backing tracks to embracing retro jazz and hip-hop over standard pop.
Into openly addressing their flaws and apologizing when they were wrong, they proved that authenticity is actually scalable.
Yeah, they showed the world that you don't have to sacrifice your individual identity to be part of a successful team. You can bend the system to accommodate your talent, rather than shrinking your talent to fit the system.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to mull over. Look at your own life or your own career. What industry rules or societal expectations are you blindly following right now just because everyone else does?
That's a good question.
What might happen if you, like Mamamoo, decided to stop trying to fit the mold and instead rely on your own authentic voice and talent to completely bend the rules to your will?
It is definitely something worth considering.
Thanks for listening to Piapol Pod. Keep tuning in for more stories worth knowing.